I'm back here because there's one thing about the arena that I forgot to talk about last time, and I'm really annoyed that I didn't, because this is something that someone like me in particular, I really appreciate this. So if we wait here on the entrance screen for a little bit, and that is Fire Emblem 4's prologue map theme, which is amazing because Fire Emblem 4 is my favourite game in the series. So, I first heard this when I first played Sacred Stones and hadn't even heard of Fire Emblem 4, and so I was just like, wow, this is such a great song. It actually really fits the arena as well, but it's actually a remix of the prologue theme from Genealogy of the Holy War. Up until recently, in fact, actually, at this point in the series, this is the first game Westerners knew that did this, Fire Emblem arenas would usually remix a map theme from an earlier game in the series as their entrance theme, and as their battle theme, they'd remix a battle theme from earlier in the series. In this case, you'll probably recognize this song if you've played Gaiden, aka Echoes, recently. And I'm gonna... yeah. But anyway, those are just the remixes there. I really wish they'd bring the remixes back in a later game if the arenas ever come back, because they haven't done that since Shadow Dragon. The song is still amazing. Welcome back to Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones. Last time we liberated a town from the Empire's rule, and this time I'm going to have to quote Monty Python and say, and now for something completely different. You might notice the X in the chapter's title here. Now, in the Fire Emblem series, an X usually means a side quest / paralogue chapter, which I guess you could consider that the case here, except this is the only X chapter in the entire game. I don't know why they set it up like this, but they did. You'll see why it's an X chapter once we get to it. Basically, this is a meanwhile, thousands of miles away situation. Which means you can probably tell who we're going to be involved with here. This is pretty much our destination from Eirika's story. And great, Volta is back. If you deliver the first sentence here sarcastically, you get what everyone reacts to this guy with. But we're meeting a new enemy commander here, Tirado. Now, in the beta version of the game, Tirado was actually one of the main generals of the Empire, and he was known as Obsidian, which is Ducel's title in the final game. Kind of a weird bit of trivia there, but yeah, this guy was originally a lot more important to the plot. I kind of wish he still was, because as it stands, he's a little bit of a meh antagonist for being... well, I'll talk about that later. Huh. In other words, Ephriam is playing a Fire Emblem game. Seriously, Volta, stop. This guy cannot die quickly enough. Well, how many of them are actually going to work? Oh! Well, that's not good. This is what we call dramatic irony. We know that somebody in Ephriam's party is not to be trusted, but he doesn't know that yet. And hey, it's Red and Green Knights, finally! Took a long time for them to show up. Yeah, I can totally imagine them burning the village to the ground if they find out they helped Ephriam. Yeah, they'll eventually run out of supplies. And this is what we call more dramatic irony. Oh yes, my father won't die that easily. Little does he know. And once again, little does he know that while one of those is true, the other is not. Oh, speaking of which, here he is. So I suppose this was the find him in his leafy playpen plan. Okay then, please explain your logic. I love this line. He has a point though. Yeah, Ephriam is kind of Leroy Jenkins. But, yeah, they only have 4 people. 4 people versus an entire fort. But here's where Ephriam's logic is. Their opening is the fact that this is so ridiculous, there's no way the enemy would ever think that they would do it, and thus they're gonna do it and catch them completely off guard. Also, they just dispatched a huge number of troops from here, meaning they might be lightly defended back at the base. Now, in any other setting, attacking a fort with only 4 men would be complete suicide, but this is a Fire Emblem game. And in a Fire Emblem game, well, we get lines like this. Ephriam's famous quote. Which apparently people are really mad that they apparently butchered in Heroes. But yeah, the old boss is gone, now we just have this guy. Random mercenary. Fortunately, he's a sword user, and well, as we're about to find out... Huh, a paladin retainer who took a wound in the last battle. Who does that remind us of? And so, time for a piece of music that if you've played Shadow Dragon, you might recognize as being from the arena. It's pretty awesome, but sadly, this is the one time in the entire game we hear it. But we have Ephriam. I have been waiting until we got to this guy. And his absolutely amazing lance. Remember how I said Eirika wasn't the best lord in the game? Time to meet the reason why. Ephriam is kinda ridiculously good. I mean, it should probably be obvious just from looking at this stat sheet, but I guess I'll go over it. His base stats are all pretty solid, his growth rates are really good in all of the areas a physical fighter needs, he's strong, fast, accurate, and his defense isn't bad either. Ephriam is effectively slightly above average in almost everything. And yeah, that makes him pretty good. His con isn't the best for a lance user, but there's one thing that fixes that. He has one of the best affinities in the game. His only real weakness is movement, but actually I'll stop talking now. Because reasons. He might lose that later. Like Eirika, Ephriam has a personal weapon, the Regenleif. I think that's how it's pronounced. I pronounce it differently during this actual chapter because I recorded this bio afterwards, so please forgive me if I make you cringe by pronouncing it wrong. What matters is, this is a really freaking good personal weapon. It's effectively a steel lance, but lighter, with 10 critical, which is actually pretty amazing outside of killer weapons, and effective against armored and cavalry units. And it doesn't suffer weapon triangle disadvantage against them like the rapier does. This weapon is amazing. It's in fact a big part of why Ephriam is so good. It's great all throughout the game if you can conserve its uses that long. Like Eirika, you may notice there's an ore in the available 4 I've listed here. That will be explained eventually, don't worry. But that also relates to whether or not you'll end up getting a second Regenleif. And obviously, a second one of those is amazing. There is one thing about Ephriam that really annoys me though. Take a look at that average that I have listed for speed there. I'm gonna be ranting about this later, but you won't know the reason why now. We also finally have the red and green knights of this game. We have Ford, who, as this says, is Franz's brother. I'll just get this out of the way now. I've never liked Kyle and Ford very much, personally. They're my second least favourite red and green knights in the series. The only reason they're not my absolute least favourite is because those two from Thracia 776 exist. Seriously, does anyone remember Cain and Alva? I didn't think so. The issue is that these two, actually like Cain and Alva now that I think about it, join a lot later than your typical red and green knights. By the time they do join, you've already got Franz and Seth, both of whom are not only great early on, but end up better than these two in the long run anyway. That said, if you need more Cavaliers, which are always a good class, these two are always here. They both start with the same constitution and weapon ranks. But I find Ford the weaker of the two. His base stats aren't that amazing for his level. Compare them to Franz's base stats at level 1, they're actually not that much higher. And while his growths are decent in most areas, the only real thing he has over Franz is skill. And skill's not that important of a stat in Fire Emblem. Well, let me rephrase that. Having a lot of skill is usually not that important. It only starts making a difference when you have really, really low skill. Ford's promotion options are Paladin and Great Knight. Really, the same things that applied to Franz apply here. Paladin is good for the better movement, while Great Knight is better if you want raw stats, which aren't that necessary in the main story, so it's only really good for post-game. Great Knight does have a worse skill cap than Paladin, and skill is really Ford's main good stat, so Paladin fits his overall build better in that regard. It is kind of funny how Ford is more likely to cap speed in Great Knight rather than Paladin, despite it being stereotypically a slower class, just because of Great Knight's better promotion gain in speed. Personally, I tend not to use Ford except in playthroughs where I'm specifically trying to use characters who I don't normally use. I mean, if Ford's the only Paladin you're using, he's still a pretty good one. And then we have Kyle, the Green Knight. He's no one's relative. Now we come to Kyle, the Green Knight, and the slightly better one of the two. He joins at a level lower than Ford, but I feel like his base stats are better for his level than Ford's are, especially having better strength and defense than Ford does. His growths are mainly focused on HP and strength. His strength by far ends up the best out of all the Cavaliers in this game, and that's really the main thing he has going for him, but it's actually something quite good. His speed isn't bad either for someone this brutally strong. Personally, I wish he had a better defense growth. Having only 25 on someone who's supposed to specialize in that stat feels kinda weird to me. But rather than being a mounted tank, think of Kyle more as being a mounted warrior. He's all about big damage. As far as promotion options go, the game clearly wants you to promote Kyle to Great Knight. And he is admittedly one of the few Cavaliers who can actually make use of its high strength cap. However, Paladin's strength cap is still enough for this game, and the extra movement is definitely worthwhile. Kyle still does pretty well as a Paladin. But if you're less concerned about going fast and more concerned about seeing just how strong he can get, Great Knight makes the best use of his strength growth. In both classes, Kyle functions in a pretty similar way, combining the movement of a mounted unit with the hard-hitting power of a warrior or other such class. And finally we have Orson. Orson is kind of meant to be Ephraim's answer to Seth. He's got great base stats, pretty good growths too, starts with a silver weapon, and has high weapon ranks. As far as overall stats go, Orson is more specialised in defense than Seth is, and is quite a bit slower. Despite his decent growth rates though, Orson is really no Seth. And while he'll definitely help in this chapter, it's a good idea to make sure that Ephriam and his knights get most of the experience here. He is good for meat shielding and luring enemies in this chapter though. So yeah, as Seth began with a silver lance, Orson begins with a silver sword. I mixed them up for a second. Steel sword and a javelin, you have an iron sword and a steel lance, and Ephriam has these. So, there are a lot of enemies on this map, and you might think that there's no way we're taking them on with such a small force, but it's definitely possible. We can and we will. Now, we don't have any thieves, but thankfully the enemies will drop chest keys and door keys for us, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, at the moment, I'm just going to, let's see. Don't want to get too reckless here, obviously. And as awesome as the Rainleaf is, we don't want to waste it too much. Can actually attack that guy right off the bat, but not sure if that's an amazing idea. And hey, you double this guy already. It's quite a muted red palette that Ford has. It's interesting. It's different from other Red Knights in the series. And as for Kyle... yeah, you can just take this guy out with the Steel Lance. And this guy has a muted green palette. Sacred Stones does tend to use a lot of muted colours in general. Probably because this game, I'm sure this game came after the GBA SP was released. And the SP has a backlight. Pre-backlighting, most Game Boy Advance games compensated by using very bright and vibrant colours. I hear there was an early GBA Castlevania that was actually very hard to see because it had a dark palette, and it was not very well received until the GBA SP came out because of the light, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But now that we've moved beyond having to use bright colours just because there's no backlight, GBA games could afford to use darker, more muted colours, which Sacred Stones does, I think, quite well. And now you're about to witness the true power of the Rainleaf. Complete armor busting! I love this lance so much, it's absolutely amazing. That guy just stays there and guards that door. Now, who's gonna... oh, there's a mercenary and a fighter coming. Unfortunately, Carl gets weighed down a bit by that steel lance. Now let's go ahead and use the steel sword here. Oh, that's not good. It's not the end of the world if this archer survives, but... well, Carl can potentially one-shot him. And he did. Good. It's a general theme with Red and Green Knights that one of them prefers swords and the other prefers lances, but in this one they both have the same starting weapon ranks. It's just their starting inventories that differ. Let me just see, because I don't want Orson to kill anyone in this chapter. But if you're just going to maim or seriously injure, that's actually fine. And that's exactly what you'll be doing in this situation, so let's... ironically, he's doing less with the steel lance, despite the weapon triangle advantage. 6 speed... yeah, Orson will probably double you. And at least we get to see what Orson looks like here. He is very green. But he is not a Green Knight, obviously. I was in a position where I could attack him from over the wall. Trading the Javelin over to Ephriam is actually not a bad idea. I like to do that usually at least one point in this chapter. Now, you might also be noticing that we don't have any healers here. That's actually fine, because we'll be finding healing items in the chests as we go. I dread to think what this chapter would be like if you didn't, but thankfully you do. Don't think anyone's going to double this guy. No. Okay, you have the door key. Let's try this then, because I just want to get at those chests. You're going to grab that door key. And you're going to unlock this door. Oh, and you can unlock the door and run. And Ephriam could just... he won't one-shot, though, and then there's that fighter who will do kind of well against him. This does have a lot of uses, I might as well go for it. And our first Ephriam level up, which are usually amazing. Ah! Why did I jinx it? Why did I jinx that? Maybe there's going to be some kind of curse where Ephriam ends up terrible in this playthrough and Eirika ends up amazing, because she got really, really good level ups early on. I hope things go better for Ephriam, because his is actually going to be my main file. You won't understand what that means until a little later, but yeah. I would like good level ups from him. Okay, those guys are dealt with, and Kyle levels up. Yeah, strength is the main stat you'll be seeing out of him. Okay, well the mage is going to attack. I always thought that male mages in the Game Boy Advance games just looked very weird. Like, I like to call them clowns because of the hats they wear. Okay. Even though Ephriam got a terrible level up before, I kind of still want him to not kill this mage, because apparently he's not going to double with the Steel Lance. Let me just check something. 13 weight. Yeah, that is very heavy. Yeah, he wouldn't have doubled even if he gained speed. I can just try for this, though. I had a feeling he was going to miss. Okay, that mage needs to die right now. He needs to die very, very much now. Oh, I had a feeling that would happen. I might have my first recording failure here. Unless I do something. Javelin. 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 This could still miss. Good, this mage is not effectively the reincarnation of Sed. Thank you. And there's a chest key. Now, I'm pretty sure we don't actually have a convoy in this chapter, so you need to be careful of not letting your inventory get too full. No, we obviously do not have a convoy because we can't see the option there. Okay, let's see. You don't have a javelin or anything like that. So now, if the enemy was smart, they could move that guy and then have that guy attack from his spot, but they don't do that because they're dumb. Okay, this could work. I say could work, but let's hope that it actually does. We're gonna need to open those chests and get those healing items soon. Now, we do have vulneraries already, and thankfully you do exactly enough. 96% has almost no chance of missing in this game. And that's our second chest key. So, let's see what we've got up here. Not much, so I'm going to continue advancing. Ephriam does start with an elixir, but I like to save that for absolute emergencies. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and trade your vulnerary over to him, because that's better to use than the elixir. Okay, we have an axe user incoming. Although Ephraim's so good that he can usually fight those one-on-one. So yeah, an elixir. Thankfully we use up our... and we can grab the chest and run, which is cool. we use up that key, so we don't need to worry about inventory space here. And a killer lance! That is a pretty nice treasure. Unfortunately, Ephriam can't use that until he hits a C in lances, but once he does, then things become very, very fun. Now, I'm going to be really silly and have Ephriam attack a lance user, but he does not pick fights he can't win. Or, well, in this case, it's more that he doesn't pick fights he can't survive. Because I don't think he'll be actually killing that guy, but if he survives, that's fine. And he completely dodged, so yeah. Oh, guess he doesn't pick fights he can't win. I was wrong. Ephriam is so amazing, he proved me wrong. Which should be understandable, because, seriously, he's just that good. I may need to use this elixir. We have 2 of them, which is 6 full heals, which is more than enough to last us for the whole chapter, pretty much. I guess you could use a vulnerary. I would definitely like to grab that killer lance. Okay, there's exactly one spot that archer can attack that the cavalier won't be able to reach. And if I could give Ephriam the javelin, I would like to do that. But unfortunately, he does not have the javelin at this point. Carl does, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that, just so that I have an extra weapon on you. Get you into position. Okay. I would definitely rather Ephriam use the javelin here. But I would also like Ephriam to have the killer lance, and his inventory is kind of clogged. Well, I mean, he can't use the killer lance yet, so there's no point in giving it to him now. Notice that this doesn't lower his avoid as much as the steel lance does. It's heavy, but not that heavy. Other than that, those two cover each other pretty well. So, come here, Archer. That's not good. I like how the sprite on the javelin is very slightly different than any other. Ephriam is actually one of the few characters who has a different image for throwing spears than he does for just regular lances. Everyone else just pretty much throws their normal lance. But Ephriam can now just finish him off. And yes, Ephriam being the... Well, other lords in the series could use lances on promotion. Ephriam was the first primary lance-using lord in the series, and at this point, well, unless you count Sharana, he is the only one. Which is why many people wanted him to be in Smash Brothers. I know I was voting for him on the ballot. I know his character is controversial, but I just wanted a Smash Brothers Fire Emblem character who was not a sword user. Because I want people to know that Fire Emblem is not just swordsmen. That's like only 1/4 of all the physical weapons. Also, by the way, Rainleaf completely wrecks Cavaliers, in addition to armored units. Because it's amazing. Yeah, these have not been great level ups on Ephriam so far. Yeah, you can, weirdly enough, reach further than these two. And I'm going to do something kind of interesting. I'm going to have Kyle go here and equip this killer lance. Hopefully that'll lure you up. There's a couple of them there. You could use a vulnerary. I mean, I guess there are many points in this chapter where it's not really all that interesting. It's just positioning people around in certain places. You don't have many characters here, so... And there's a crit. And you do have to be careful because there are no healers. You really need to ration out your items in this one. I like to just take this slow but sure. Thankfully, there aren't any reinforcements in this one. I'm pretty sure there aren't any reinforcements. Okay, these guys can go a little bit further than the Cavaliers can, so I'm going to go ahead and try and lure them. I'm pretty sure he's not going to get doubled by them even if he uses Steel Lance. He is getting up there. Once he hits C, then it's Killer Lance time. You know, I'll turn... Yeah, I kind of want to just lure these guys first. Don't think I need to use an extra vulnerary there. And you attacked anyway. Kind of had a feeling you wouldn't double. And the other guy didn't move at all. In that case... yeah, that soldier can reach him there. But, I mean, it's just a soldier. It's not like we have much to worry about. I probably shouldn't say that, but... yeah. Wondering who had the javelin, and I realized Ephriam did. Could potentially just one-shot you, but I could also... yeah, no matter what I'm doing, I'm probably not going to get the javelin to one of these people. You want to be careful when you start going down these corridors, because there are magic users around here that like to attack from the sides. Let me just see what Orson does here. Yeah, he completely wrecks that guy. Let's not do that then. I have not been lucky with hit rates so far in this chapter. In that case, I'm going to have Kyle go here and not attack. Because I don't want to risk taking too much damage here. And now Ephriam's going to lure that guy, and this should hopefully work out alright. Apologies if my commentary is not that interesting here, but it's just that... there's not really all that much to say about this chapter. You just slowly bait enemies and make your way forward. It's just one of those that I like to take slowly and cautiously. And there is the Killer Lance. Although at the moment you're using it. Oh, I forgot you were a Sword Cavalier. I had nothing to worry about then. Didn't even kill them both. Well, Ephriam can just javelin snipe one of you. Well, you hit that time, thank you. Will you get a better level up this time? I shouldn't have said that. Okay, yeah, that is much more like a typical Ephriam level up. I will accept the earlier ones just because of that. That is much better. Much, much better. You are both only Sword Cavaliers. Should have checked your inventory. Because then I would have, like I said, had nothing to worry about. And, well, I guess Ford levels up. He's not that amazing, so I don't really care about his levels. And now, it will not be Kyle's turn to level up, because he can't actually kill this guy. I think I'm going to have Kyle take the Javelin back. Swap that for the Killer Lance. We're just going to go for him. I would like it if you didn't double, because that would mean that I can finish you off with Kyle, who I actually like better. Only very slightly, though. I still don't really like either of these two very much. Well, you've got one way of one-shotting. So that should be Kyle, I believe, level 7. If I'm counting right. Yes, that's level 7. Oh, okay, speed. That's not bad. There is that Shaman over there. I don't like him. And a couple of axe users down there, and a few more soldiers and an archer. I guess this is a full use vulnerary. I can go ahead and use that. Unfortunately, at this point, Ephriam is stuck with that corridor with those annoying enemies. Awesome, though, his resistance is actually not that good. It's worse than I expected. But it's exactly enough to get tinked by you, so that's fine. Also, it's really weird that generic monk portraits, they have staves for some reason. I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same as the generic male priest portrait. Like, really, I'm almost positive that it's exactly the same. Even though generic male priests are very rare. Although I'm pretty sure there are generic male priests in this game. I know the enemy has generic troubadours. Another soldier gone. 2% crit and you still do nothing. Light magic is, like I keep saying, not all that great. Dark magic, on the other hand, is kind of strong. And I'm glad that missed. I misjudged your range for a second, and that, if that had hit, I would not have been able to do... Okay, you have 19 attack. All of your weapons have 10 might, so you'll always have 19 attack. Versus, you can't one-shot that guy anyway. Okay then, I'm probably going to need to heal you. Yeah, 9 damage. You have 7 attack, you have 12. None of you have javelins, right? Okay, you don't. You have 6 crit, and yeah, you have 8 luck, that's fine. Yeah, Orson's luck is pretty bad. That's why he was getting crit so much. He's got a very, very high hit rate. Which might be what I need here, because if Ephriam misses either of those, he will probably... In fact, he will definitely die. Well, provided that the guy hits him. That's banking on getting a critical. That can potentially save more HP if I get the crit there, but I think I'd go for the more reliable option here. This is risky, but it's probably in character for Ephriam. He likes to be Leroy Jenkins and take risks. And in this case, it didn't pay off. But that monk is not going to kill him regardless. Unless he... No, he's not going to get double because he only has 4 speed. Okay, the archer won't be able to reach from there. That may actually be... Okay, no ranged attackers can actually get to his spot, so that's not a terrible thing. Oh, wait, the archer can reach from there. So if Kyle misses too much... Yeah, I'll just have him wait there and let him get attacked on the enemy phase. This might miss, but I'm not counting on it. And it didn't. 66 is not bad under true hit. 74 isn't bad either, which is why it hit both times. And now the archer... 3 damage. Yeah, archers are a great class in this game. Seriously. I'm glad they finally got their act together and made archers stronger, but still. Here, they are pretty bad. Oh yeah, it is weird. Ephraim's land sprite turns into the javelin one whenever anyone attacks him at range, even if he doesn't have a range one equipped. I do remember that from some point, but still very odd. Speaking of which, Ephriam's going to have to fight an axe user again. And this time, I'm going to make him use his elixir. And I'm going to equip the Killer Lance just because. Only weighs him down by 1. That should be not the end of the world. Meanwhile, that guy can continue to have fun tinking. I almost called him Orson. No, Orson as in Orson from FE5. You are definitely not Orson from FE5. That guy is way more awesome than you are. Well, mainly his signature axe is, but still. Yeah, Ford will be able to hit better with that. I suppose I can... Yeah. And he doesn't kill him! Great! That was completely stupid! Oh well. Yeah, like I said, even though I'm not really a big fan of either of these two, I do like Kyle a bit better. Would have been funny if he missed there, but no, he didn't. And once again, continuing to tink awesome. I suppose I can have you try and finish him off. Good, you didn't miss. But I'm immediately going to take that javelin back with... we're full on inventory. Yeah, we have to chuck this vulnerary. Because we have no convoy here. But a second elixir is nice, even though we're probably not going to need it. They were very generous with those. Okay, the soldier can go one more space than that fighter can, so... I'm going to go ahead and... I'm going to use this, and I might need to use one of those elixirs soon, because Kyle has quite a lot of HP. Thankfully, you can't reach him. That's a pretty decent chance of him surviving. There we go. But I want to think about exactly where that guy was getting stabbed. It's still not quite as painful looking as some of the GBA animations where Armor Knights just shove their lance right through your chest. Is this going to be... Yes, you are doubling. Good. So we're slowly pushing our way there. Hello there, Archer, and you also tink. There is a mage down there, though. Okay, yeah, you can't quite reach it from there, so I can just safely do this. You can't double with that, unfortunately. Do want to be careful how much I use that. Granted, we will be getting another one if we're on the route where we end up using Ephriam more. Sigh! This chapter has not been good about hit rates. Not good at all. I need to do a little inventory readjustment here, give you that other elixir. I can probably afford to move quite far here. Make sure to equip the sword, obviously. Well, this is the one hit rate that can't fail me this chapter. Oh, no doubling. But at least you leveled up. This is actually not a bad Kyle. He doesn't usually get this much speed, from what I recall. Ephriam is just off of leveling up, but with how not great his level ups have been so far, I kind of dread to think what's going to happen when he does. Yeah, this is really not a bad Kyle. Ford can swoop in here, though. And hey, another 100% hit rate. Great. The game just wanted to make amends for me after that fiasco from before. Yeah. Seriously, I mean, Ford has some pretty decent support options, but as a character, like, stat-wise, I'm not really a big fan of him. Especially since you already have Franz. Like, from a very long time ago, and Franz is basically the same as Ford, except better. Ford has better skill, but, you know how I'd probably think of that, considering Suck Bucky. FE characters who specialize in only skill usually are not a good idea. Oh, hey, you're doing 2 damage. And you missed. Well, at least the enemy are getting unlucky with their highish hit rates as well as me. And you cannot reach that spot. Okay, let's see how this goes. Even if Ephriam somehow fails this. Yes, you'll need to use an elixir soon. No crits, though. Which means I don't think I've shown Ephriam's crit animation yet, which is pretty amazing looking. Not many enemies left, though. Suppose I can lure you with him. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Don't even know if I need to heal you. Almost done with this. And you're going to leave him on 1 HP. Don't know why he's only gained strength on one of his level ups, though. That's like his only really good growth. Then again, I have been strength screwed with Lachesis before in FE4, which strength is literally her only good growth, and I somehow got screwed in that. Yeah, I guess I can do that. And now Ephriam should be fine to rush in, provided that I have him use his elixir. The sound that the elixir makes in just that animation is always so satisfying. Just that full heal. And you don't often get this many elixirs in a single chapter. There's Ephriam's crit animation! I love that one so much. It's probably one of my favorites next to the Myrmidon ones. And you still suck because light magic is pretty bad in this game. More says something about Arto being pretty decent, that he can actually make it work despite it being not that good. Okay, I kind of want to mob this guy before I do anything else. And wow, and you one-round him, surprisingly. Which is actually not that great, because I don't want you to get much experience, but oh well. Let me guess, you one-round... Yes, you do. I kind of want Ephriam to get as much of the glory here as possible, though, because... he, out of everyone here, is probably the one that I'm going to be using most later on. Don't think I'll be using Kyle and Ford at all after this. Well, there's one other point in the game where they'll be coming back for a little bit, but after that... Oh, Ephriam has not been getting good level ups lately. But all that's left is the boss, who unfortunately happens to be a sword user in a chapter where we've got Ephriam. So, he also has a steel blade. Blades are much, much heavier versions of normal swords, so this one weighs him down pretty considerably. This boss is not a threat at all. Like, I can even use... Yeah, most things will double him. Something to note, though, is these pillars right next to the throne are defensive terrain, so it's always better to attack from there than it is to actually attack from right in front of the throne. 18% hits. Just in case, though, I'm going to pop a vulnerary. Because I haven't had good luck this chapter at all. And this is a seized chapter, so if we have anything that... Also, this guy has no ranged weapon, I just realized, so I can actually do this. I'm sorry, but at this point, that's my line. Have you realized that all of your soldiers are gone? That you're the only one left? At this point, you are the one outnumbered 4-1. I don't like your odds at all. But yeah, if there's anything extra that we want to take care of before finishing the chapter, it is seized, so it won't end once the boss dies. Which, actually, I may want to do without... you know what, I'm gonna give Ephriam's level ups one more chance. This may not even be a level up, though. Interesting line, though. And, oh, hey, he actually did level up. Didn't expect that. Please redeem yourself. Speed is alright. But this is overall not a particularly decent Ephriam. So, we need to seize with Ephriam. But before we do, one thing that I want to do here, and what I'm about to do constitutes a spoiler, so if you don't want the plot spoiled for you, skip ahead in the video now. Okay, if you're still here, it might be a good idea to strip Orson of everything in his inventory at this point. Okay, now we can seize. Yes, 4 versus, yeah, pretty enormous garrison, and we won. That is the power of Ephriam for you, even though his level ups weren't that great for me for some reason. Yeah, obviously we don't have the manpower. So let's just take the castle and just leave it abandoned. Surely they don't have the numbers to just retake it again. Ah! Yeah, what that guy said about being pawns? We didn't hear all of Tirado's plan before. As it turns out, Ephriam wasn't quite as good of a planner as he thought he was. They planned this all along. This was exactly what they were counting on. And yes, there is obviously a spy amongst them, as we found out at the start, but as to who it is, we don't quite know yet. You know, I get the feeling Volta is one of those people that being taken alive is worse than being killed by. And there's the line again. And you might think we have another chapter here, but that's how it ends. This chapter overall is kind of weird. I like that they show what Ephriam was doing at the time, but it feels strange this is the only one of these chapters in the game. So, after that diversion, we're going to be back to Eirika next time. Unfortunately, it's a chapter that I'm not looking forward to. It's our first Fog of War chapter. Yeah. Fog of War. Not fun. So, I'll see you next time for that.